Okay, for your project, after you have prepared your drawing, which should be a series of interlocking shapes, either made through a template or just free drawn, it could be a pattern like this, or it could be a more complicated image. And I will have provided some examples of simple and more advanced versions. Once you have this lightly drawn in pencil, we will use the wet on wet technique to fill this in. I recommend finding a starting point. Either start in the middle and work your way out in all directions with your colors blending in order of the spectrum. So I would start with red, and then the surrounding colors would be red with a little orange. And then after that, I would do some oranges. And then I would, after that, as I radiate out, I would do oranges with a little bit of yellow and so on. And I'll show you some examples in my pictures here. But what I want to see is you working in the spectrum, which is part of our upcoming lessons on color theory. I'm just dropping my color in. And if they get a little bit out of the spectrum order, that's okay too. And now I can also go back in later on when this is dried in order to tighten up some of my edges if I want to. And I'm not worrying as much about a little bit of pigment in here because these colors should be neighbor colors. But I don't want to worry about messing up my palette. So I want to keep washing my brush. So I'm putting a little bit of red, washing my brush. Hopefully you saw that. And I'm putting a little bit of orange now. And I'm kind of letting the colors do their own mixing. And this way, I'm just going to keep working my way out in an approximate value, change of values. If you didn't want to do the full spectrum, you could pick one color group and just do warm colors or cool colors and move from one color to the next. But as they transition from one shape to the next, the colors should look like they're the next step along. So maybe the next step is orange. So I could fill this entire painting with just maybe the warm colors. Maybe around the edges I get a little bit of green. So if I don't include all the colors, that's okay. But I do want to try to include, I messed up my yellow here. I'm going to have to fix that. I do want to include colors that should belong next to each other. And I'm going to wipe out that little bit of color. Make sure to keep your paint set nice and clean. All right, that is how we're working on filling in your pattern for the wet on wet painting project.